When politicians start talking about large groups of their fellow Americans as enemies, it's time for a quiet stir of alertness. Polarizing people is a good way to win an election and also a good way to wreck a country. I prefer someone who burns the flag and then wraps themselves up in the Constitution over someone who burns the Constitution and then wraps themselves up in the flag. I know guns don't kill people, but I suspect that they have something to do with it. If you point your finger at someone and say, bang, bang, you're dead, not much actually happens. What we have here, fellow citizens, is a crassly egocentric, raving twit. Texas is a fine place for men and dogs, but hell on women and horses. On the whole, I prefer not to be lectured on patriotism by those who keep offshore mail drops in order to avoid paying their taxes. Americans are not getting screwed by the Republican Party. They're getting screwed by the large corporations that bought and own the Republican Party. Satire is traditionally the weapon of the powerless against the powerful. I only aim at the powerful. When satire is aimed at the powerless, it is not only cruel, it's vulgar. What stuns me most about contemporary politics is not even that the system has been so badly corrupted by money, it is that so few people get the connection between their lives and what the bozos do in Washington and our state capitals. And the funny thing is, I've always been an optimist. It's practically a congenital disorder with me. You could probably prove by judicious use of logarithms and congruent triangles that real life is a lot more like soap opera than most people will admit. Satire is traditionally the weapon of the powerless against the powerful. Anyone who thinks humans are not capable of so fouling their own nest that the land and the waters can no longer be productive just hasn't been paying attention. Nice is a pallid virtue, not like honesty or courage or perseverance. On the other hand, in a nation notably lacking in civility, there is much to be said for nice. It's like, duh, just when you thought there wasn't 8 dimes worth of difference between the two parties, the Republicans go and prove you wrong. There is no inverse relationship between freedom and security. Less of one does not lead to more of the other. People with no rights are not safe from terrorist attack. It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. Rank imperialism and warmongering are not American traditions or values. We do not need to dominate the world. Either we figure out how to keep corporate cash out of the political system or we lose the democracy. As they say around the Texas legislature, if you can't drink their whiskey, screw their women, take their money, and vote against them anyway, you don't belong in office. I believe all Southern liberals come from the same starting point: race. Once you figure out they are lying to you about race, you start to question everything. I don't so much mind that newspapers are dying. It's watching them commit suicide that pisses me off. Sit up, join up, get online, get in touch, find out who's raising hell and join them. No use waiting on a bunch of wussy politicians. Age has given me what I was looking for my entire life. It provided me the time and experience and failures and triumphs and friends who helped me step into the shape that had been waiting for me all my life. It's hard to argue against cynics. They always sound smarter than optimists because they have so much evidence on their side. If an armed nation were a polite nation, America would be paradise. We have more than 200 million guns in private ownership here, but our manners are not getting better. You can't ignore politics no matter how much you'd like to. I've always found it easier to be funny than to be serious. Conservatives have been mad at the Supreme Court since it decided to desegregate the schools in 1954 and seen fit to blame the federal bench for everything that has happened since then that they don't like. How the American right managed to convince itself that the programs to alleviate poverty are responsible for the consequences of poverty will someday be studied as a notorious mass illusion. I dearly love the state of Texas, but I consider that a harmless perversion on my part and discuss it only with consenting adults. We've had trickle-down economics in the country for 10 years now, and most of us aren't even damp yet. He was so narrow-minded, He could see through a keyhole with both eyes. The thing about democracy, beloveds, is that it is not neat, orderly, or quiet. It requires a certain relish for confusion. If his IQ slips any lower, we'll have to water him twice a day. Mostly Texas women are tough in some very fundamental ways, not unfeminine, nor necessarily unladylike, just tough. So keep fighting for freedom and justice, beloveds. I believe that ignorance is the root of all evil, and that no one knows the truth. Karl Parker observes, if you took all the fools out of the Liege, it wouldn't be a representative body anymore. Democracy requires a certain relish for confusion. I know vegetarians don't like to hear this, but God made an awful lot of land that's good for nothing but grazing. Sometimes I think Texas exists as a reality check for those who might wander too far toward the precious. Behind a smokescreen of high-profile female appointees and soothing slogans, George W. Bush is waging war on women. Good thing we've still got politics in Texas, finest form of free entertainment ever invented. You look at the large problems that we face, that would be overpopulation, water shortages, global warming, and AIDS. I suppose all of that needs international cooperation to be solved. Humanism is not alive and well in Texas. Different colors and types of Texans do not like one another, nor do they pretend to. One thing that corporations do not do is give out money out of the goodness of their hearts. With politicians, artful evasion is always preferable to the outright lie. If you ever get to the place where injustice doesn't bother you, you're dead. Politics is not a picture on a wall or a television sitcom that you can decide you don't much care for. Having breast cancer is massive amounts of no fun. First they mutilate you, then they poison you, then they burn you. I have been on blind dates better than that. The myth of the inevitability of economic globalization is based largely on the work of Milton Friedman, and easily the most underreported story of our time is that the current economy proves Friedman flatly wrong. Whenever you hear a politician carry on about what a mess the schools are, be aware that you are looking at the culprit. Manners are just a formal expression of how you treat people. I often plagiarize from myself. I like to think of this as ecological journalism. I recycle. The founders were right all along, but the results are a lot funnier than they intended. In the first place, any group of folks willing to make asses of themselves in pursuit of a good time should be commended and encouraged. The spirit of human frolic needs all the help it can get. Be outrageous, ridicule the fraidy cats, rejoice in all the oddities that freedom can produce. The advantage of being able to identify sin is that you can go out and do it and enjoy it. Listen to the people who are talking about how to fix what's wrong, not the ones who just work people into a snit over the problems. Listen to the people who have ideas about how to fix things, not the ones who just blame others. Mary Tyler Mollyivins, August 30, 1944, January 31, 2007, in Monterey, California, and raised in Houston, Texas. Her father, James Ivins, known as General Jim because of his rigid authoritarianism, or sometimes Admiral Jim for his love of sailing, was an oil and gas executive, and the family lived in Houston's affluent River Oaks neighborhood. Molly Ivins was an American newspaper columnist, author, and political commentator, known for her humorous and insightful writing, which often used satire and wit to critique political figures and policies. Ivins graduated from St. John's School in 1962. In high school, she was active in extracurricular activities, including the yearbook staff. She had her first pieces of journalism published in the Review, the official student newspaper of St. John's School. Ivins enrolled in Scripps College in 1962, but was not happy there, and transferred to Smith College in 1963. She began her journalism career at the Minneapolis Tribune, where she became the first female police reporter at the paper. Ivins joined the Texas Observer in the early 1970s and later moved to the New York Times. She became a columnist for the Dallas Times-Herald in the 1980s, and then the Fort Worth Star-Telegram after the Times-Herald was sold and shuttered in 1991. Her column was subsequently syndicated by Creators Syndicate and carried by hundreds of newspapers. A biography of IVINS, Mollyivins, A Rebel Life, was co-written in 2010 by Penn USA winning presidential biographer Bill Manutaglio and W. Michael Smith. She Award. William Allen White Award from the University of Kansas 2001. Smith Medal from Smith College 2001. Elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences 2001. Ivan Allen. JRB Prize for Progress and Service 2003. Pringle Prize for Washington Journalism from Columbia University 2003. Eugene V. Debs Award in the Field of Journalism 2003. David Brower Award for Journalism from the Sierra Club 2004. David Nyhan Prize for Political Journalism from the Shorenstein Center on Media, Politics and Public Policy at Harvard University 2006. The Molly National Journalism Prize from the Texas Democracy Foundation 2006. Otis Social Justice Award from Wheaton College, MA 2004. In addition to these formal awards, IVINS said that she was particularly proud of two distinct honors, having the Minneapolis Police Force's mascot pig named after her and being banned from the Texas A&M campus.